example of the magic of life, the brilliance, the genius, the miracle of what happens in our world. And it's that miracle that oftentimes we just simply take for granted, or we just simply don't notice. And sometimes we see that magnificence more as a nuisance in the form of bugs. And the one particular bug that's absolutely fascinating, I just found out, talking to Robert, is the dragonfly. And what he's doing is actually recreating that in a larger form, the brilliance, the magic, and the genius, or the ingenuity of the structure of the dragonfly into a form that we can then appreciate. And his hope and his dream is that he can then inspire others to actually grow dragonflies. So, Robert, thank you so much for joining me today. It's an incredible pleasure for me to be talking to you.
I appreciate the introduction. Thank you for doing this.
And even more so, the kind of art that you get to do. And I know you do these amazing wind instruments that you're taking advantage of nature and technology, and then creating something magical for all of us to experience. So tell us a little bit about Dragonfly instruments, what you're doing, and more specifically, what you're doing for Burning Man, and also give us a little bit of background of this incredible insect called the dragonfly.
So I guess the initial inspiration for the project came from dragonflies that I encountered at Burning Man. I think they come from the hot springs. Okay. That little and being able to see them up close and fascinated with their structure and the way they can fly. They're the most agile insect. They can fly almost backwards and sideways. And it was sort of an indication of a healthy ecosystem to me. That little patch, not necessarily the playa, but on the edge of the playa, that there's enough fresh water that lasts year round to keep a population of dragonflies around. And they keep the population of mosquitoes down.
Is that right? Yeah, which is pretty spectacular, because when you think about it, Black Rock City in the middle of northern Nevada, I guess. I mean, it's just desert. I mean, it's just pure white sand, really fine sand, and not much life out there. And for you to, as I heard from you, be exposed to so many dragonflies during your Burning Man experiences, that's pretty powerful.
It's partly, I take it as an omen, but also there is I have a lamp that attracts them accidentally. Uh-huh. It's a Diwali lamp that somehow they respond to. And so pretty much every year I've had dragonflies. And it's amazing that anything can survive out there, and something as complex and it has a complex life cycle like a dragonfly. Right. So.
Well, I guess we've proven that too, because 70,000 people are exactly. Burning Man. Yeah. They're able to survive, which is pretty remarkable. In fact, last year was my very first Burning Man experience, and it had taken me about 7 years to go there because I didn't really quite understand the whole concept of it. And now I'm termed a perma burner because I'm here for life. But you've been going there since 2002.
Yes. Yeah, it's an opportunity to explore. I mean, to be inspired, but also to do art on a scale that's not possible, but also to do art that doesn't fit into galleries or the gallery context.
Right.
And it's also, it's a natural environment. And so that's why I've sort of done things that are wind reactive. And so to try to make you also feel the world around you.
Right. I guess it's also art that doesn't fit in front of your driveway, right?
Not anymore. Yeah.
What I love about the work that you do and so many of the artists out there is it's not just a spectator sport. It really is all about, people being able to participate and being able to be engaged and captivated by the magic of your art, for example. Because what you're doing really is using technology and engineering in such a fashion, pretty much creating a natural existence in the dragonfly that's super complex. I mean, obviously, as humans, we're also super complex, but looking at this insect and recreating that's pretty awesome.
It's given me a new appreciation of the simple, just the wing stroke of a dragonfly.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like a pair of oars. So there's a rotation plus a forward motion and an up and down motion, and opposite that on the back wings, and it changes depending on which direction they're flying. And so just to try to recreate that tiny aspect has given me a new appreciation, let alone the fact that they're actually living, breathing insects with the whole life cycle. And so
Now,
go ahead.
So let's go ahead and look at some of your work, if that's okay. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Try to do it the other day. It was a miserable failure, but I think this time it's going to work. There we go. Awesome.
Cool.
So why don't you guide us through some of these photographs that you...
That's just the head and the thorax, basically, of a... There's going to be 5 dragonflies, 3 of them with a 6-foot wingspan, 2 of them with a 12-foot wingspan. And so these are 2 of the smaller ones, just the head and the shoulders, or the thorax in this case. You can see a bit of the wing mechanism. Mm-hmm. Basically, there's some bearings at the very top of those.
So that's where right here, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So,
and they're styled after, there's 5 regional species that, and so I'm trying to match the coloration and some of the aspects so that so that you can sort of recognize, say, a blue-eyed darner from a western meadowhawk.
So you're going to be bringing 5 different dragonflies to the play.
Yes.
So just for people who have no concept of what Burning Man is, 70,000 people, create a city in the middle of the desert in the middle of summer, August to be exact. And right now, if you were to go there, there'll be nothing. And pretty much as soon as possible, within weeks, perhaps a month afterwards, there's nothing there again. And that's one of the main principles of Burning Man, which is a beautiful idea, beautiful event, if you will. It's kind of hard to describe. But the most important part is you have all these incredible artists who really are thinking out of the box. And as Robert was saying, can't bring their art form, in the museum either because it just doesn't fit in, or it's just too big and doesn't fit in as well. And what's great is that it really allows the observer, who's also participating in the process in many different ways, to really expand, their perception and their experience of life. And I have to, tell people like Robert, I mean, it's incredibly courageous to have these ambitious projects that are fraught with challenges and potential disasters because of the severe weather conditions. And you've been doing this since 2002, early on.
You learn a little bit more every year, but it is, I laugh about when I actually do something in a gallery, it's air conditioned and there's a drinking fountain. Right. You can set something down and it won't blow away. But right. The opportunity of Burning Man, it's like a beautiful blank canvas. And so anything that you bring out there becomes kind of starkly poignant.
Right.
People notice it more. And also people are in a different, they've taken time out of their daily lives, and it's not just browsing through a gallery. It's becomes an experiential thing.
Right.
My favorite is for people to spend some time at one of my projects and just either listen to it or watch it go. And my favorite thing is to stumble across people sort of chatting and hanging out underneath one of the instruments.
But you can definitely expect me there. So this is another part. Is this more of the body?
This is the tail.
Okay.
And so in the instruments part of these is that there's you can see the tuners sticking out of the length of the tail, sort of sticking perpendicular. and it's not strung up yet, but there's guitar strings that run the length of the tail and are bowed. So the whole thing becomes sort of it drives a wheel, which rubs the strings. And so I can drone the 6 strings, tune them to a chord. And so when the wind speed picks up, they start making sound.
Amazing.
And so they'll all sort of, I'm going to tune them to be a set, and they'll sort of all hum together.
Yeah, I noticed quite a few of these kinds of instruments last year, and it's wild. You're out there in the middle of the desert, and you hear this natural sound, and it's powerful and it's beautiful at the same time. So I guess this is one of the wings.
That's the first of the wings, and so it's beat up because I've been trying to break it. Right. See what happens. And so they're modeled pretty much exactly. There's a wing structure that people are just beginning to understand, of going from quadrilaterals to little pentagons to hexagons in the cells of the wing, and I'm reproducing it with carbon fiber and epoxy. They suggest that you engineer for 100-mile-an-hour sustained winds at Burning Man. And so these are very, very strong. I'll see how they turn out on fire.
So again, the body, right?
Yeah.
And then this?
So that's the very beginning of there's eyes, basically.
Right.
Which the eyes are, dragonflies are almost a pair of wings with eyes, and it's a very important part of their structure. And so we have a tiny Arduino attached to the NeoPixels, and so it's a way of adding another level of life to what's kind of a little robot.
Right. Love it. So these are your designs, right?
Yes. Yeah. Most of this is laser cut, the flat panels. And so actually from the designs, I can pretty directly laser cut things, which has been invaluable. I don't even know how many generations of redesign it took to do the shoulders, but it's been nice to be able to prototype and test something,
right,
and then redo it again and again.
So how long have you been working on this?
I started it'll be over a year at Burning Man. So working out the wing flap mechanism was a big part of it. It's an idea that's sort of been bouncing around that I decided to make concrete. And so it's taken a while.
Wow.
I think most of the art projects at Burning Man have at least been on the back of somebody's head for a long time.
For years.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing. I mean, and number of hours that you must be spending on this is quite remarkable. Here we have.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. This is the one there's sort of one that I've been working as it's like the test pilot model.
Right.
That I keep changing out. And so this was the working version from a low angle, and you can see the tail off of the wings. The wings are just spars, and so that's sort of half length. It's so that they have some stability, but I can also rotate them.
Right.
So
we got another one.
That's the back view.
Right.
And everything's unskinned. And that's actually that's pretty much the whole thing. There's a front view of this, but the plans are the design.
Right. So, yeah, that's beautiful. That is just incredible.
It's derived pretty much exactly I'm trying to keep the proportions to a dragonfly. And so part of the struggle has been to make the wing mechanism as tight as they can have on their bodies.
Right.
And there's a lot obviously that nature has figured out in the structure of the wings to keep them strong.
Right.
So
It's just amazing how these things exist. And here we have a little video of how it works.
you can see that there's two kinds of rotation, and that the wings are, that there's a flapping, but there's also a rotation to the wings. You can see the tips moving a little bit, and so that's why it feels like oars moving through the water. And so with the wings on it, it should be pushed by the wind. It actually rotates on its mast like a weather vane, and so that it'll face into the wind. All of them will sort of automatically, or just by the force of the wind. And so there's a lot that it does by itself without having there's no like motor and sensor to make it do that. It's just aerodynamics.
So you obviously have a team of people that are kind of in and out helping you out. So how can, we as a community, either going to Burning Man or just not going to Burning Man, but just loving these kinds of creations, how is it that we can actually support you, and how can we also take part in one of your dreams?
It's a complicated enough project that there's not a lot to help out with, but I definitely would appreciate some help with casting wings and things like that if someone's in the LA area. Right. There's also a through Burning Man fundraising, because Burning Man partially funds the art projects, but leaves the rest up to the community and us.
So definitely, give me that link later on, and we can add it so that people can support it. And one of the beautiful things going to Burning Man, at least for me last year, was just the wealth and the abundance of experiences that I had, just amazing experiences, things that I never imagined, and really in the form of two things: just the creativity of people, and just the people themselves, and just connecting with all sorts of people. And just opening your vision to the world, the universe, the galaxy, everything. And it just reminds me of the essence of our humanity, and how important it is for us just to see the greatness in all of us, and being realistic at the same time, and still just saying, hey, you know what, how can we collaborate, how can we cooperate, how can we be generative and just make things that so much better, for all of us. And so, it's a call to action to anyone out there just to help support Robert in any way which he can, particularly with funding, and so that this creation can be experienced by so many others. So any particular challenges that you're looking towards besides the wind, I guess?
Burning Man is the unknown also. And so you never know you sort of have to plan for, you don't know if a giant spaceship is going to run into your piece of art or something like that late at night. And it's also, it's just sort of left up to everybody, but everybody's been beautifully respectful of the art. It's definitely, people love to climb things, and so that's a safety issue. But
these will be pretty hard to climb, I guess, right?
It's a pole and some guy wires, and so you'd have to be pretty dedicated.
Right. So. Well, you never know what happens in the middle of the night. And like you said, talk about spaceships. I mean, these are not the real spaceships that come out from space, but there's cars and art cars and all sorts of interesting, huge contraptions that sometimes people get a little distracted and bump into things.
It's kind of a beautifully distracting event, because there's not just a handful of pieces of art that are designated, that everybody brings their art to their utmost to the event.
Right.
Whether it's costuming or performance or something like these sculptures.
Right.
So,
So just we're going to slowly wrap it up, Robert, and just want to ask you a few more questions. How soon before the first day of Burning Man, which I think is around the 28th or something, do you start setting up?
this one's pretty moderate. Previous projects we've done almost 2 weeks, but they start setting up in July. It depends on for things like the temple or the actual Burning Man itself. Most of these, depending on the scale of the project, we're hoping to get everything built beforehand and on Playa just assemble.
Just assemble it. Yeah, that'll be the best thing, right?
It's anything that you do on Playa, because of the heat and the wind and the fact that you're no electricity or water. So everything can take an extra long time. And so it's best to get it all done beforehand.
Yeah, one of the principles for anybody who's listening in is called radical self-reliance. And so that basically means, there's no 7-Eleven or gas station you can go to pick up and buy some stuff. In fact, there's nothing for sale at Burning Man except for coffee and ice, and that's it. And that's what's wonderful about this experience. And for me, it's been transformative. And for me, the purpose of these interviews, especially for Robert and everyone else I've interviewed, is to find ways to get their talent, their genius, more exposure, so that people can also help and support them in their creative art. As artists, oftentimes we're so focused on the creation part, we sometimes lose sight of the practical aspects of it. And so that's why a community, we kind of sort of have an obligation to support you guys so that you can really, manifest things that we can only dream of. So Robert, I really, really want to thank you for this amazing exposition of how nature has turned into technology, and I look very much forward to experiencing it there this coming August in Black Rock City.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to explain it a little in depth.
And so please share this video with others. And again, your big dream, as you shared with me, is to inspire others to respect the dragonfly. And the dragonfly has so many incredible, awesome meanings, but one of which is change, and one of which is a healthy ecosystem. And that's one thing that we should all strive for. So Robert, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, real success. Really excited to be talking to Robert Hoehn from Dragonfly Instruments. Hopefully his website will be up, and so you can see some of his incredible art out there that is just a gem to experience. So thank you, and I'll be back on Thursday.